We often talk about romantic love stories, but what about the epic love stories of friendship that last a lifetime? Hello, I'm John from Texas, United States, your friend and narrator of real stories. Stay with me until the end of this incredible story. Want to see your story told here? Then get in touch with us. This is a story about one such friendship and the incredible test it was forced to endure. For 78 years, Martha's life had been intertwined with Rose's. Theirs was an epic book of friendship that began in kindergarten and had weathered every storm life had thrown at them. Awkward teenage years, the joys and trials of marriage, the chaos of raising children, and the profound grief of widowhood. They were more than friends. They were each other's anchors, the keepers of each other's histories. But now, their book was coming to a sudden, brutal end. Rose was moving away. A series of falls, a doctor's grim prognosis about her failing health, and a decision made by her well-meaning children had resulted in a life sentence for them both. Rose was being moved to an assisted living facility, a sterile-sounding place. 2 hours away to be closer to her daughter. For Martha, the news was a physical blow. It was a future she couldn't comprehend, a loneliness so vast it terrified her. The story begins in the final week, in the heart of Rose's home, a home that was being systematically dismantled. The air was thick with the dust of memories and the bittersweet scent of packing tape. Martha was there to help her friend sort through a lifetime of possessions. A task that felt like an archaeological dig into their shared soul. Every object was a chapter. The chipped teacup, from which they had shared countless secrets. The high school yearbook, with their youthful, hopeful faces smiling out from the page. This process of condensing a life into a few boxes is something many of us have faced, either for ourselves or for a loved one. What is a single object in your home that holds a powerful memory for you? Share the story of that object in the comments. Each item unearthed was a fresh stab of grief. How do you decide which memories are worthy of the small room that awaits at the end of this journey? Martha watched as Rose, her movements slow and pained, picked up a small silver locket. "Do you remember this?" Rose asked, her voice a soft whisper. Martha remembered. Her late husband, Ben, had given it to Rose as a joke on her 16th birthday. The three of them had been inseparable. Now Ben was gone, and soon Rose would be too. Martha felt a surge of anger so hot and fierce, it almost choked her. It was an anger directed at the universe, at the cruel injustice of old age. "It's not fair, Rose," she said, her voice tight. "This place, this senior living facility, it's not you. You belong here, in your home, with your things, with me." Rose looked around her living room, at the empty spaces on the walls where pictures used to hang. "My children are worried about my health, Martha. They think this is for the best." "They think," Martha scoffed, her bitterness spilling over. "What do they know? They come for a weekend visit, see you looking a bit frail, and decide to upend your entire life. They don't see you every day." It was a lie, and they both knew it. Rose wasn't strong anymore. Her body was betraying her. But Martha couldn't accept it. To accept Rose's frailty meant accepting her own impending solitude. That night, Martha went home to her own quiet house. The silence, a deafening roar. Her own health was good. But what was the point of health without anyone to share your life with? She knelt by her bed, a habit ingrained since childhood. But her prayer was not one of supplication. It was one of rebellion. "God," she said, her voice a tense whisper, "I have trusted in your plan my whole life. I read my Bible. I trust in Jesus. But this feels like a punishment. You took my Ben. Must you take her too? How much loss? Is one person supposed to endure? She felt her faith, once a mighty oak, withering to a fragile sapling. The breaking point came 2 days before the move. They were in the attic, sorting through old letters. Martha came across a packet tied with a faded blue ribbon. The letters Ben had written her from his army post overseas. "Oh, Rose," she said, clutching them to her chest. Rose smiled sadly. "He wrote to you every single day. Now that was a love story." "We had a love story too. You and I," Martha said, her voice cracking, "the longest one of all. And it's not supposed to end like this, in some sterile elderly home 2 hours away." "It's not the end, Martha," Rose said, though her words lacked conviction. "We'll talk on the phone. You can visit." "It's not the same and you know it," Martha snapped, her grief finally erupting as anger. "It's not the same as having tea every afternoon. It's not the same as knowing you're just 5 minutes away. You're just giving up. You're letting them do this to you." Rose recoiled, as if struck. Her gentle face hardened. "Giving up?" she retorted, her voice trembling with a rare fire. "What choice do I have, Martha? Do you want me to fall and lie on the floor for hours until someone finds me? Do you want my children to live in constant fear? It's easy for you to be brave. Your body isn't failing you." The words hung between them, sharp and poisonous. It was the first truly cruel thing they had said to each other in over 60 years. The shock of it silenced them both. Martha, horrified by her own words, couldn't bring herself to apologize. Rose, deeply wounded, turned away and busied herself with another box. The rest of the day was spent in a thick, painful silence. When Martha left that evening, she didn't give Rose her usual hug. She just murmured a quiet goodbye and walked out the door. She drove home in a daze, the argument replaying in her mind. She had taken her own fear and pain and used it as a weapon against her best friend, the person she loved most in the world, just when she needed her support the most. The loneliness she had been dreading felt like it had already begun, and it had been ushered in by her own bitter words. The silence that night in Martha's house was a heavy, accusing presence. Her own words echoed in the darkness, each one a fresh wave of shame. "You're just giving up." How could she have said that? How could she have taken her own selfish fear and thrown it like a stone at the person she loved most? The insomnia she had been dreading arrived with a vengeance. But it wasn't born of loneliness this time. It was born of a deep and searing guilt. She saw Rose's wounded face over and over again, an image branded onto the back of her eyelids. She had failed. In Rose's moment of greatest need, in the final precious days they had together in the same town, she had chosen anger over compassion. She had made it about herself. Tossing and turning, she felt a profound spiritual crisis brewing. Her anger at God had been a shield, a way to deflect her own feelings of powerlessness. But now, all she felt was the deep, cutting conviction of her own sin. She had not been a good friend. She had not been the Christian woman she prided herself on being. She had not shown the love of Jesus. Defeated, she finally got out of bed in the pre-dawn hours and went to her living room. She picked up her Bible, not for answers, not for comfort, but as an act of penance. She let it fall open, her eyes blurry with tears, and her gaze landed on the book of Proverbs. "A friend loves at all times," she read, "and a brother is born for a time of adversity." The words were simple, direct, and they pierced her heart. Loves at all times, not just when it's easy, not just when it's convenient, not just when it doesn't hurt, but in the times of adversity, of change, of painful goodbyes. This is such a humbling moment of self-awareness. Have you ever realized that your good intentions were actually causing more harm than good in a relationship? It's a difficult but important lesson. Share your thoughts on this delicate balance in the comments. In that moment, her prayer was no longer a list of demands or angry questions for God. It was a simple, broken plea for forgiveness. "Lord, forgive me," she whispered. "Forgive my selfish heart. I have not been a friend to her. I have been a burden. Give me the strength to fix this. Show me how to love her through this, not how to resent her for it." A quiet resolve settled over her. She knew what she had to do. That morning, she went into her kitchen and pulled out her old baking supplies. She decided to make Rose's favorite lemon-glazed scones, the ones they had made, together 100 times. The familiar act of measuring flour, of zesting lemons, of rolling out the dough, was a form of prayer, a meditation on her love for her friend. Each scone was an apology she didn't yet know how to speak. With the warm scones packed in a basket, she drove to Rose's house, her heart pounding with a nervous humility. She found Rose in the living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes, her expression listless and defeated. When Rose saw her, she didn't smile. She just looked tired. Martha walked over and placed the basket on a table. "I brought you something," she said softly. "I'm sorry, Rose," she blurted out, the words tumbling out before she lost her nerve. "I am so sorry. What I said yesterday was cruel and unforgivable. I wasn't angry at you. I was angry at the situation, and I was scared. I am so scared of losing you, of being alone, and I let my fear make me cruel. You have been the greatest love story of my life, my friend, and I dishonored that. Please, can you forgive me?" What do you think is harder, admitting you were wrong and asking for forgiveness, or offering forgiveness to someone who has deeply hurt you? Tell us what you think. Rose looked at her, and for the first time, Martha saw that Rose's eyes were also filled with tears. "Oh, Martha," Rose said, her voice breaking. "I'm scared too. I'm terrified. I don't want to go to this assisted living place. I don't want to leave you. But my body, it doesn't feel like my own anymore. And when you said I was giving up, it felt like my worst fear was true." The two women, whose friendship had been built on a foundation of laughter and strength, finally allowed themselves to be vulnerable, to share their mutual fear and grief. They cried together, holding each other amidst the chaos of the packing boxes, their tears washing away the bitterness of the previous day. "We're not ending, you know," Martha said, pulling back and wiping her eyes. "This isn't a goodbye." Rose looked at her, confused. "What is it then?" "It's a new chapter," Martha said with a newfound conviction. "You are not just moving into some elderly home. You are going to be a missionary. You are going to bring your light, your kindness, into a place that probably needs it desperately. And I am not losing a best friend. I am just learning how to be a long-distance best friend. We'll have a new routine." She began to lay out her plan, her voice growing stronger with each word. "We will talk on the phone every single morning, just like we always have. I will drive to see you every other week, and we will have a proper visit with tea and these scones. And we will pray together, over the phone every night before bed. Our friendship is stronger than a 2-hour drive, Rose. It's stronger than anything." A real smile, the first one in days, bloomed on Rose's face. "A missionary, huh?" she said, a little chuckle escaping her. "I kind of like the sound of that." In that moment, the dread that had been suffocating them both began to lift, replaced by a shared sense of purpose. They were not victims of circumstance. They were partners facing a new challenge, armed with 60 years of love and a renewed faith. The final day, moving day, arrived. The mood was completely different. It was still sad. A day of poignant farewells to a beloved home. But the bitterness was gone. They worked together, a seamless team, directing the movers, sharing last-minute memories in each room. When the truck was finally loaded and Rose's daughter arrived to pick her up, the goodbye was not a shattering, but a tender promise. They held each other for a long time. "I love you," Martha whispered. "I love you too," Rose whispered back. "Call me tonight?" 7 p.m. sharp, Martha promised. As Rose's car pulled away from the curb, Martha did not collapse in a wave of despair. She stood on the sidewalk, waving until the car was out of sight, her heart aching but full. Her grief was real, but so was her hope. Her best friend was not gone. Their love story was not over. She had simply been given a new, sacred mission: to prove that a friendship blessed by God knows no distance. That first week was the hardest Martha had ever endured. The silence in her home was a constant, aching presence. She would instinctively reach for the phone in the morning to call Rose, only to remember that their routine was broken. The loneliness she had feared descended upon her like a thick fog. But at 7 o'clock each evening, a small light would pierce the gloom. The phone would ring, and Rose's voice, though distant, would be there. Their first few calls were stilted, filled with practical details about the new facility and awkward silences. But they were a lifeline. They kept their promise. They were learning the first steps of their new long-distance dance. For Rose, the transition to the assisted living facility was just as difficult. The place was clean, the staff was professional, but it was not home. It was a world of scheduled meals and polite, impersonal interactions. The loneliness was a palpable thing, a constant companion in her small, unfamiliar room. But Martha's parting words echoed in her mind. "You are going to be a missionary." It's amazing how a change in perspective can turn a challenge into a purpose. Have you ever found a new mission in an unexpected place or circumstance? We'd love to hear your story of resilience. The idea felt absurd at first. What could she, a frail old woman, possibly offer? But as she looked at the faces of the other residents in the dining hall, faces etched with loneliness, boredom, and quiet sorrow, she felt a stirring in her spirit. She remembered the teachings of Jesus, to be a servant, to love others as he had loved them. So she began her quiet mission. It started with a smile to a woman who always sat alone. It grew into a compliment for the young, overworked nursing aide. One day, she found a woman weeping quietly in the lounge. Rose, leaning on her walker, went over and simply sat with her, placing a comforting hand on her arm, offering the silent gift of presence. She was planting tiny seeds of kindness in the sterile soil of the institution. 2 weeks after the move, Martha made her first visit. The 2-hour drive was filled with anxiety. Would Rose have changed? Would their friendship feel different in this new clinical setting? When she walked into the facility, her heart sank a little. It was exactly as she had feared: clean, quiet, and utterly devoid of warmth. But then, she found Rose in the sunroom. She wasn't alone. She was sitting with the woman from the lounge, the one who had been crying, and they were looking at a photo album, a rare smile on the other woman's face. When Rose saw Martha, her eyes lit up with a joy so pure, it took Martha's breath away. They hugged, a long, heartfelt embrace that said everything words could not. They had their tea and the lemon scones Martha had brought, and it felt for a moment like nothing had changed. They were still Martha and Rose. Their friendship was still home. This idea of friendship multiplying is so beautiful. Tell us about a friendship that has not only blessed you, but has overflowed to bless others around you. As the weeks turned into months, their bond, paradoxically, began to grow even stronger. The distance forced them to be more intentional. Their daily phone calls were no longer just about the logistics of their lives, but about the landscape of their souls. They shared their fears, their hopes, their struggles with faith. They started reading a chapter of the Bible together over the phone each night, discussing its meaning, finding comfort and guidance in the ancient words. They became each other's confessors, counselors, and spiritual directors. Their friendship, once a love story of comfortable proximity, had evolved into a powerful testament of intentional connection. Martha's visits became a source of joy, not just for Rose, but for the small community she was building around her. Martha would bring baked goods for Rose's little group of friends, and they would all sit together, sharing stories. Martha saw firsthand the impact her friend was having. Rose had become the heart of her hallway. She organized a weekly prayer circle. She remembered people's birthdays. She was a listener, a comforter, a quiet beacon of God's love in a place where many felt forgotten. She was not just a resident of an elderly home. She was a missionary, just as Martha had prophesied. A year after the move, Martha drove to see Rose for what would have been their 61st friendship anniversary. When she walked into the common room, a small group was waiting for her. Rose sat in the center, her health more fragile, her body weaker, but her eyes shone with an inner light that was brighter than ever. Her friends, the woman from the lounge, the man who built ships in bottles, a few others, all smiled warmly at Martha. They had saved her a seat. As she sat down, she realized what had happened. Their friendship hadn't been diminished by the distance, it had been multiplied. The love that had once been shared exclusively between the two of them had overflowed, creating a new family, a new community in the most unlikely of places. Martha looked at her best friend, her sister of the heart, and her own heart was filled with an overwhelming sense of peace and gratitude. God had not taken her friend away. He had planted her in a new garden, and she had bloomed more beautifully than ever. The story of Martha and Rose is a sacred testament to the enduring power of friendship. It teaches us that the greatest love stories are not always romantic, but are sometimes found in the steady, lifelong devotion between two friends. It is a profound reminder that our purpose doesn't retire when our bodies weaken. God can use us to be a light in any circumstance, at any age. And it shows that home is not a place on a map, but a space we create in the hearts of others through love, faith, and unwavering connection. If this story of a friendship that conquered distance has touched your soul, please honor it with a like and subscribe to Stories Beyond 50 for more tales of love and resilience. And now, we open this space to you, our community. Tell us about a lifelong friend who has been an anchor in your life. How have you maintained friendships over long distances or through difficult seasons of life? What role has faith played in sustaining your most precious relationships? Your story is a gift, and we invite you to share it in the comments below. And if you're not ready to share, but you believe in the power of a friendship that lasts a lifetime, just write the single word friendship in the comments. Let us celebrate the love that makes us family by choice. We read and cherish every word you share. Thank you for being here with us. God bless you, and we will see you in the next story.